Hello, my creative friends. I'm Heather North from heatherscreativeblessings.com. All week long, I have been celebrating right along with StampNation for their 4th birthday, and the birthday bash actually ends tomorrow. Can you believe that? But I still have 2 more cards to share with you. This one today is by the sponsor Verve. They are sponsoring StampNation's challenge, and they were also sponsoring the design team. This is a stamp set I got a while back, but I just love it. It's great for masculine cards. It's called Better Together, and I just wanted to make a really quick and easy masculine. The challenge today is actually anything goes. You can do any kind of birthday cards you want. And since I have need of cards for teenage guys, I wanted to do something for teenage guys. So what I did was I inked up that background dot. I just think it is awesome. And I stamped off, I think it's called generation stamping, but I stamped off onto my grid mat, and then I stamped onto my cardstock without re-inking. And what that does is it gives you just a little bit lighter ink color. It can also give you a place to practice your placement for your sentiment. So what I used here was garden green ink first, and now I have tempting turquoise ink, both by Stampin' Up, and then I'm stamping it onto Whisper White cardstock. Then I took it to my stamp room and my die cutting machine, and I cut it out with little Inker Design stitch rectangle mats, and it just has a nice little kind of a faux stitching detail. I actually thought about making this a 1-layer card, but then decided I was going to punch it up a little bit. So I also took these strips of paper, they're in Tempting Turquoise and Garden Green, coordinated with ink, and I'm taking the chevron stamp, and I'm going to ink it up in Versamark, and then stamp it onto that Tempting Turquoise piece. I'm going to be embossing this, so I'm also going to take this deactivator tool, kind of like an embossing buddy. It just removes static so that the embossing powder hopefully only sticks to the areas that have been Versamarked. And what I'm doing here is I'm just moving it over and up and over and down so that it just adds an interesting little design and texture. Then I'm covering it with some clear embossing powder from Stampin' Up, and I'll use my heat tool to melt that embossing powder. I only planned on embossing that Tempting Turquoise, but it turned out so cute that I decided to also emboss the Garden Green. This time I'm going vertical with my chevron, and I'm switching it so it goes, the arrows go up and then the arrows go down, and the arrows go up and the arrows go down. It doesn't need to go all the way to both ends because it's going to end up being trimmed down. I'm using my cutter bee tweezers. They're great for kind of having an extra pair of hands. And then again, heat set this. To make my little banner tails, what I do is I go from one end and I just make a little slit up the middle, and then I go from either side up to that slit using some very sharp scissors. So I'm going to adhere these banners down with just a little bit of Tombow Mono multi-glue. You could actually skip this step because I'm using, I'm going to actually use a little stapler to staple it in place. But by using the glue first, I can kind of play with it and move it around and get perfect placement. Again, I'm just using my sharp scissors, and I'm cutting off the tails that are sticking off the side. When I create a card, I usually have a general idea or a sketch, and I think I know which colors I'm going to use, but I always end up just playing around and trying things out. It's part of the learning, and so here I played with using a black backdrop and a white, and I really liked the black, especially, I don't know, because I'm thinking this is going to go to my son's next birthday party. So the boy will be turning around 14, 15, 16. And I didn't have enough black cardstock. If I did, I could have just used black cardstock as my entire base, but all I have left is a few scraps. So I adhered my scrap of black cardstock to my card base. It's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And then I'm going to use some Stampin' Dimensionals to just pop that up. I tend to use more dimensionals than most people because I like a nice even layer. And the Whisper White cardstock's really thin. It tends to sag if I don't use extra dimensionals. They're cheap, so I just use them. Here I am peeling off the backs of those dimensionals, and then I'm going to adhere my my little die cut piece. I had planned on just having it centered in the center, and I thought, what happens if I turn it to the side a little bit? Ooh, I really like that. If I had been planning this from the beginning, I probably would have had that sentiment go straight, and so it would be straight once it was turned. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but I didn't have it all planned because I don't always have it all planned. So here I have some wooden dots. These are something that I got at the StampNation Live retreat last spring, and I love them so much that I haven't used them. I've been like hoarding them, but they're really cute and I wanted to use them, so I'm using them today. They're either from Inky, as she's known on StampNation, Debbie, or from Catherine Pooler herself from the Embellishment Bar. That finishes the outside of my card, but I did decide to do a little bit of stamping on the inside since I have all the supplies out and I knew what I wanted on the inside. I don't always do the inside when I'm making the card. Sometimes I'll wait until I know who it's going to because that might change the sentiment. When I decorate the inside, I try and pull elements from the front of the card inside. So I did one of my chevrons horizontal, and then I did the other one in the opposite corner going vertical. I have a couple of different happy birthday sentiments from Verve. This is one of them. I thought it would be just great with this kind of young teen guy card. So I'm going to ink that up in Garden Green. And I debated between stamping off like I had done on the front and doing it just straight on, and I ended up doing it straight on. I also, as you can see, I thought about doing it up in that corner and then decided to do it more just in the center because my son does not write a long sentiment or a letter. Usually it's just his name. And that completes my card for today. Even though I'm calling this a masculine card, it could really be given to anyone. Thank you, Verve, for being such an amazing sponsor of the StampNation Birthday Bash and the design team. If you'd like more information on the products that I used or how to become a StampNation member, be sure and click the links down below. I hope I've inspired you to get a little bit creative. Bye!